and
What
where it was.
what is the relationship right now between China and Iran, and historically, what can we understand about that connection? Because it seems like there is some sort of alliance. You have BRICS, but what is the trade like, and what's that geopolitical relationship between China and Iran?
Well, one of the things about Iran and China is that we've never had war. And we've had thousands of years of relations. The Silk Road that you've heard of and many people have heard of in history books, uh, that was a trade route that connected Iran to China thousands of years, both by land and by sea. I was in Guangzhou um, last year, a year and a half ago, at an exhibition of Iranian and Chinese artifacts that showed the trade that took place between Iranian ports and Chinese ports, meaning the Guangzhou area in particular. And it was fascinating how they were influencing each other, the artists and the creators and those who were making um, like utensils and things like that, kitchenware or other things that people use. How the two sides were selling them back and forth, and how they were being influenced by each other in creating or in innovation and creating new goods. So the history of Iran and China has never been hostile, and that goes a long way to creating trust. The United States, even though it's a new country, it doesn't have a history like Iran or China, but our history with the United States since 1953 has been pretty dark. They carried out a coup in Iran alongside the British, and it's been downhill in 1953. It's been downhill ever since. So when you don't have that dark past, it's easier to build bridges. And Iran and China, Iran being a very independent country, probably unique, definitely unique in the world that we live in, as being the most independent country, even though it's not a superpower, or at least in the traditional sense of the term. Because it's highly independent, because it has shown no hostility towards the Chinese people. This has helped create very favorable environment for trade and business and cooperation. The problem with the United States and much of Europe is that they cannot put aside their exceptionalist, their Eurocentric worldview. In a sense, and I'm speaking about the elites. I'm not talking about ordinary people. But in a sense, they're not all that different from Zionism. The Zionists consider themselves to be a master race, a master people, a people who are human, and the rest of us are not so much human. For those who believe in American exceptionalism, or who have a Eurocentric worldview, we are also lesser people. And when you treat the rest of the world as lesser people, it may work for you when you have overwhelming power. But once the rest of the world begins to grow stronger, and it begins to um, um, strengthen, different countries, different parts of the world, uh, technologically they develop, and their state institutions become stronger, then uh, they push back. They push back more effectively. They always would push back. The resistance would always be there. During imperialism, there was always resistance. For example, often they would speak about the lazy native when the colonialists were like, they take part of Africa or part of Asia or wherever, or the Americas. But that lazy native was not a lazy person. That was one form of resistance. When you were working for the master and you're the slave, he's the guy with the whip, he's the guy with the sword, he's the guy with the gun. So you're not able to shoot back at him. The only thing you can do is to try not to help him. Try to be as try to be uncooperative, not to be helpful. So all of these were different forms of resistance in the past. But when countries and and different parts of the world rise, then the resistance grows. And Iran, because of its religious ideology, Islam, it's in Shia Islam in particular, it's the role that Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet, plays in resisting oppressors on behalf of the oppressed, the role that his sister played in Karbala, that has a huge influence on Iranians, their support for the oppressed. That's why they are so adamant about supporting the Palestinians, the Cubans, the South Africans, the Bosnians, and so on. And then there's this heritage of civilization, thousands of years of heritage, which, and also the very fact that they're a victim. When you are a victim, it makes resistance for you more meaningful. If someone has stolen your home, you have reason to resist. But if you carried out some sort of aggression, your motivation for violence is less, unless you make it ideological and you consider yourselves to be a master race or a master people or a superior ethnicity or superior in some sort, which we do see in Zionism and we do see in among the elites in the West. When what's his name, Joseph Borrell, who was the the EU foreign policy chief until just a couple of years ago, he said that Europe, the EU, we're the garden, and out there is the rest of them, that they're the jungle. That means we're the jungle, we're the barbarians, we are the animals, we are the the uncivilized, and he and his people like him, they're the civilized people sitting in their gardens and in their coffee shops and being sophisticated and humane. But ironically, they're the ones who support genocide in Gaza and now the genocidal attacks in Lebanon and wars of aggression against Iran and so on and so forth.